Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 244th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, Riding the Entrepreneurial Waves. Now, in this episode, it's going to be short. I just had a message that I want to share with you, actually based on something that my business coach said on our Inner Circle Mastermind call earlier today. Now, we've been talking a lot about like the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship, the ups and downs. There's actually a book by Darren Hardy called The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. I've actually listened to that book on Audible and it is very good, but it paints a good picture of the fact that entrepreneurship is full of ups and downs. I feel like some of the content I've been sharing on the podcast has been talking about this, alluding to this, but the one constant in entrepreneurship is change. But I think it's important that when we go down the route of entrepreneurship, whether or not it's as a side hustler or eventually as a full hustler, that we really understand what we are getting ourselves in for. Because entrepreneurship is not for the light of heart. This isn't something that we were taught in school. I will say most of us, maybe you were, but most of us were not taught these things in school. We were taught a traditional healthcare model, right? Trading time for money, hourly pay for hourly work, and it's just a whole different ball of wax than what we deal with in entrepreneurship. So what my business coach was talking about was, we're playing this long-term roller coaster game, I guess, and he used this analogy of surfing. And he pretty much said, like, when things are going good, we got to ride the wave. But then eventually, when the wave falls down, when we fall down, we got to get back out there. So when he said that, I don't know why, it just clicked. I'm a very big storytelling and visionary person. I like looking at examples of things. Like if you're a Bible reading person, Jesus spoke in parables. He told stories. And for some reason, stories just really help me to paint a good picture. So my goal on this episode is to kind of paint a picture of what entrepreneurship is like using the analogy of surfing. Keep in mind, I am not a surfer. Okay. So if you're a surfer, you're like, Katie, you are butchering this. But I hope that this helps you as you understand the journey that you're on. So that way, sometimes when you fall off the board, when things go the way you thought they would, it's okay. Okay. So when I started thinking of this picture in my head, I was just imagining how we are all on an island or we're standing on land, right? We are standing on beach and we're looking out at this ocean. We're looking out at this beautiful ocean. We're maybe seeing a sunset. We're like, man, I want to go out on the water. I want to go that direction. And the water, those beautiful waves, the beautiful, vast ocean that we see in front of us is entrepreneurship. Most people actually never get their foot in the water. Most people don't do that. They only ever sit on the sand and think about doing these amazing things. But if you are an entrepreneur, either a baby one or a big one, meaning you're just getting in the game or you've been in the game for a while, then you are on the water. You've done what most people will not do when you've gone onto the water. So what happens when we go out into the water? Well, there's waves coming towards us, right? And depending on where you're at, the season, the time of day, the weather, maybe those waves are bigger. Maybe they're smaller. Now, I live in Oregon, and the Oregon coast is violent. I mean, it's not like, oh, let's go to the coast and swim. It is cold, it is violent, and those waves can kill you. Where when I go to Florida, I often go to Florida and Clearwater Beach. Oh man, these are like little baby waves. I'm like, oh, those are cute. I mean, it's still dangerous. It's still the ocean. There's still riptides, all the things, but it's a different game, right? It's a different ocean. But we are now imagining ourselves standing on the shore. We're looking out at the ocean. We're like, I want that. I want to get in. Now I can share some analogies about, well, what's it take to get in the water? Well, you got to plan, you got to know, like we mentioned, riptides, there's things that can take you out. You got to really understand what you're getting yourself into so you're not pulled away, you don't drown, we don't want bad things to happen, but you also want to prepare yourself for the right things, right? Sunblock, clothes. We're surfing, right, in this analogy. So your surfboard. So this is preparing for entrepreneurship. We need to plan out what is possible, what am I going to do, what's the skill set I need to learn, what are the tools that I need. But we don't want to stand on the shore forever because, right, the sun's going to set. There's always tomorrow, but we also have to act. So yes, plan, but then act. So you get out on the water and let's imagine you're on a surfboard, and I've seen surfing, right? So I've seen people on the surfboard and they're kind of paddling their arms and they're swimming out past, where the waves are breaking. And so as you can imagine, as you're going out, it's not necessarily easy, right? Waves are coming at you. You really got to, paddle. Maybe the waves are bigger, maybe they're not, but it takes time and effort to get out there, right? So this is getting started with entrepreneurship. You're on the board, you're putting in the effort, you're getting yourself out there, and now you're out there. You've turned your board around and you're waiting for the wave. You're waiting for the wave. You're waiting for that moment to stand up on your board and have success in your business. Now, this could look like putting out a launch. This could be starting something new. This could be, let's say where you're making money, right? This is a money-making activity. That is being on the surfboard. So you see a wave coming, you get up on the board, and then you fall. You didn't catch it. You know what? It happens. I'm not a surfer, but my brother took surfing lessons once in Hawaii and I watched him. So this is the extent of my experience, and I've watched TV shows and movies, right? Most people, they're not going to get up the first time. It's going to take a few times. Now, I am not a surfer, but I am a snowboarder. And I remember, I say I'm a snowboarder. I can snowboard. All the things are going to be sore, but I can do it. But I remember when I first got started with snowboarding when I was a teenager, I think I fell on my butt more than I actually was up on that darn board. And it took me a while to learn and to get better and do the thing. So I imagine surfing is very similar, right? So you get up, you fall down, you get up, you fall down. But then you get up and you're on the wave. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. It's working. You're on the wave. You're coasting in. You're gliding that wave. And it feels so amazing and it feels so good. You're doing the thing that you wanted to do. You're doing the thing that most people aren't doing. And it feels so good. And we get so many happy endorphins out of the high of like riding the wave. But then eventually what's going to happen with any wave? It's going to end, right? It's going to end. So you are either, some people from the shows I watch seem to like kind of glide onto the sand, but most people are going to like kind of get back in the water, right? So the question is, you're off the wave, what do you do? Now in business, because remember, I'm using this as an analogy for business. This would mean like, okay, I put out a launch, people are buying, I'm having success, it's working. People are coming into my program. This is awesome. But all of a sudden, what happens when no one buys? What worked a year ago doesn't work today. Things aren't working. Are you like, well, you know what? That was a good try. I'm going to walk back to the shore. I'm going to get back on land and go back to my regular job because clearly this didn't work. I fell off my board. It's not working. No, we're not going to do that because we have to understand this is what entrepreneurship is like. It's like surfing. Okay. Now let's get back on that board and let's keep going back out. Let's keep finding those waves. Let's keep pushing through what's, the incoming waves at us and find a new way to make this happen. Because entrepreneurship is full of ups and downs. And I think if our primarily words, guys, I'm making this up off the top of my head if you haven't noticed. It just was a good idea and I thought about it a little bit and I wanted to talk about it. So if our way that we see business is only when things are good, we're happy. But when things are bad, we're sad. That's not a fun journey, right? Because the reality is with anything in life, including entrepreneurship, it's going to be like combinations of amazing and challenging. And I think if we only focus on the high of a win, and then when we're in maybe something that didn't work and we're beating ourselves up saying this doesn't work, I knew this wouldn't work, this won't work, it's never going to work again. I've talked a lot on this podcast about the power of our thoughts and why what we think matters. Because if you believe something, if you think it, you believe it, it will probably happen. So we have to be so mindful with our thoughts, but then also understand what entrepreneurship is like. It's not just amazing when it's good. It's got to be amazing through everything because you have to understand that when you fall off the board, when you're paddling back out, when you're trying something again, when you're pivoting, when you're changing, that's just part of the game of entrepreneurship. That's just riding those entrepreneurial waves because as long as you don't give up, as long as you stay in the water, as long as you don't, get off the board, then you're going to find another wave. And then eventually you'll ride that wave out and then you'll find another wave. And this is different than maybe some traditional jobs where you're like, well, I've been working in this job for years and things don't change. Although I will counter that even in regular jobs, things change. But we just have to understand that this is what entrepreneurship is like. Entrepreneurship is like surfing. We are riding the entrepreneurial wave, and you just have to remember this is what it looks like, and we just can't give up. So when you fall off the board, and while a lot of people will get off, they'll go back to shore and they'll be like, I'm back to a traditional job. This was not for me. Just remember, this is the journey. People who are successful, when you look at successful entrepreneurs, whether or not it's other dietitians or, marketers or these amazing people in the online space, they're not superhuman. They're no different than you. They failed. They've fallen off that darn surfboard probably more times than they've ridden successful waves. They just didn't get out of the water. They understood that this is what it looks like, and I'm going to keep going. So anyways, I hope that resonated well with you guys. Again, this is a short episode, but I just wanted to share that with you guys because when I heard it, I'm like, oh, that helps so much. We have to have the right perspective in side hustles and business and all things life, because it's not just about when we're riding the wave and things are awesome. It's what do we do when we fall off the board? And something that's been, and I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast or not, because I speak to so many audiences, my students, on social media, in small group, I speak so many different places. I can't entirely remember if I've talked about this on the podcast, but what's really been on my heart is just the value of staying in the game. The value of staying in the game, and this is the analogy of staying in the water, that even though there can be ups and downs of business, we just got to stay in the game. We just can't be like, oh, it doesn't work. We got to pivot, stay in the game, because if you stay in it long enough, you're going to be riding those waves again. Things are going to be awesome again. So anyways, I've been feeling very motivated in the last couple of weeks. I know on, a couple episodes ago, I shared about how I was super tired. I gave a little bit of an update on the next episode. Last week, we had a wonderful interview with Devin. And so I'll just kind of give you guys a quick update about where I'm at with my kind of health journey. You guys, I'm doing amazing. I was sharing actually on my Inner Circle mastermind call. I was like, because we always share wins. And my win, and I'm like, I shared lots of wins because I feel like I've had all these little wins. I've got all this momentum going on, which is so cool. But I said, one of my wins that might sound silly is that I'm able to work again, because I've been focusing on recharging my batteries, on sleeping good, getting enough sleep, managing my stress, really prioritizing my health in a way that I've never done before, to where when I sit down to work, I have energy. It's not just me staring at the screen like, what am I doing? I feel like I've got so much energy and focus that the time that I'm working is like supercharged. So all that to say, journey's going good. I'm feeling so excited, so motivated. Hopefully in the future I can share a little bit more tangible things that I'm doing. If you want to hear more about kind of what I'm doing to make me feel so good, you can go back and listen to episode 241 called I Am Tired. Where I kind of just share, I realized I was a little exhausted. My energy levels were on empty, and I've been doing lots of very specific things to recharge my batteries. And I'll have to share more about it as I continue to go. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed today's message about riding the entrepreneurial waves and how entrepreneurship is a lot like surfing. The waves are awesome, but you know what? We just got to stay in the water. Thanks for listening, guys, and join me next week. I'm so excited about next week's episode. I actually recorded it like right before I recorded this one. This is with Anna Reisdorf. Many of you know her. If you don't, you absolutely should know her. But she is someone who, as an entrepreneur, is staying in the water. She is someone who is pivoting, twisting, and you're going to love her story as she talks about her journey as an entrepreneur and how she's actually pivoting her whole business model to go from more active income, trading time for money, to passive income. So be sure to come back next week when I have Anna on the podcast, where we talk all about really passive income. So anyways, thanks for listening to the podcast. I hope that you have the best day. And if you want to learn more about all the ways we could work together, go ahead and head on over to katiedodd.com. That is my Linktree page. And yeah, I'll chat with you guys next week. Bye, guys.